What highly illegal thing took place at your high school? Two students planned and carried out a coordinated attack on one of the math teachers by waiting by the top of the stairs between periods, and when he passed by them to go down the steps, one of them pushed him from behind, while the other put his leg out to trip him. The teacher fell down the steps and broke his neck and back, and was paralyzed from the neck down. The kid's reasoning, because one of them was dropped from the basketball team because he was failing that teacher's math class. Both of them were 15 years old, so they didn't get jail time. They both got expelled and were sent to juvenile detention. The teacher sued the school district and got a settlement in the lower 7-digit range. Man, that's just freaking horrible. They literally ruined his life, but aren't punished more severely. I feel like being paralyzed neck down is more suffering than straight dying, frick dude. Our football coach took off with one of the girls in the high school and moved to Mexico and married her. He had a wife and kids. They then hired a brand new football coach who was 23 years old. Before the end of his first year, he was hooking up with an 18-year-old senior girl. They also took off and went somewhere. We went without a coach for a couple years. I interviewed to teach at a high school once. One of the questions from the school board was, can you avoid sleeping with your students? Me, yes I can. School board thinks I'm great. Principal thinks I'm great. Superintendent of schools doesn't think I'm cut out for the job, gives me the runaround. Principal is trying to help me push through it and get hired, but I finally give up and get a normal job elsewhere. Superintendent hires his nephew, wonder why he gave me the runaround, who promptly has sex with a student and gets fired. I still see the principal occasionally. He always apologizes. I wanted to hire you. He's way too nice to have been stuck at that lousy school. Good to know there are still principals with principals. I had a middle school principal that knew every kid by name and would greet us in the morning off of the bus. He was awesome. The principal was students. A few years after I graduated, some parents found out and took him to court. He hanged himself before he could be convicted. My history teacher had sex with a 15-year-old girl, but she didn't admit it for at least a decade. He was a good teacher, and I liked his class, but he's gonna rot in jail for the rest of his life. The middle school gym teacher who inappropriately touched lots of preteen girls, who promptly told on him, got the teensiest slap on the wrist, and that was that. How was his admission not past the statute of limitations? Drama teacher slept with the hottest chicks in class and nothing ever happened to him. They would never be able to prove it. Don't you know all drama teachers are gay? The reason nothing came of it is because the girls were consenting and never told anyone. To them it was a fling that they chose. But as an adult now you look back at a guy in his 30s sleeping with at least 16-year-olds, and criminal is the only word that comes to mind. He was the coolest guy in the room to women and even to most of the guys. But my group was always like, this guy's too cool. Something doesn't feel right here. His ability to shapeshift seamlessly between being a teacher/authority figure and a peer was impressive at the time. Now I would probably see right through it. And obviously aided by some oblivious parenting that allowed the girls free reign to rehearse plays as much as they wanted, including at his house. I don't think they knew about this, including Saturday nights until 2-3 am. Sometimes one-on-one. Seems insane now, but cult of personality can get you a lot of rights that you wouldn't have otherwise. Had a guy selling heroin. After that there was a weekly police presence. Also, a kid bound a girl to a chair, gagged her and stuffed her in a cupboard in the woodworking shop. He claims it was to help her complete the sponsored silence she had been doing that day. The cheerleaders got caught selling morphine. The football team got into a brawl with a rival school at a local pizza place over said morphine scandal. A huge fiasco over a kid putting baking soda and vinegar in a test tube and sealing it and taping it under a lunch table till it exploded. Edit. To clarify, the baking soda vinegar incident was completely separate from the morphine and brawl one. Sorry for the confusion. Did they put red food coloring in the volcano bomb though? Haha, no. Could have put green and made idiots think it was a highly corrosive super acid though. The principal hired a bunch of students to sell steroids at the local gym. Same principal gave the same students a list of kids who were questioning their sexuality with the counselor before GSs were a thing, and they all had their lockers bashed in with a baseball bat. One of the kids had his parents notified and was beat within an inch of his life. Art teacher used to hotbox her classroom and then use the kiln fan to pull all the smoke out. Typical art teacher there, no surprise. Our art teacher in middle school pulled out a flask and spiked his coffee right in front of us. He also chucked a clay pot against a wall and the shattered pieces put a kid's eye out. Last I heard he took a trip to LA for an art gallery and got shot and died. Not highly illegal, but not legal either. I figured out how to make fake IDs in my home darkroom and showed a friend how to do it. This was in the early 70s, before Photoshop, when analog darkrooms and chemical-based photography were the only option. He went into production in the school darkroom. His quality sucked. He got caught. My quality was excellent, but I only made one for me. In the late 70s, my mom pretended to be her older friend who had lost her ID, so she could get a legit fake. Said friend then went in days/weeks later, because she lost her ID so that the picture on the record would actually be right. I'm impressed you made your own. This is actually really clever. Pre-internet days, kinda, CDs were a thing. I had a massive CD collection in a gigantic book in my locker. I typed up lists of all the artists and albums I owned. So I had these flyers everywhere, and for $3 a CD I'd burn you a copy. This was right when CD burners came out, and my stepdad was super into the latest and greatest tech, so we had the cool gadgets when they came out. I eventually was caught, but for a time I made killer money. What happened after you were caught? I don't remember if it was a week of detention or a ice. Either way, worth it. Kids were selling candy and snacks to other students, obliterating the monopoly that the vending machines once held. Administration cut that crap out real quick. My school tried stamping that out. When they realized that was infeasible, they instead started a market in the small gym during lunch. Charged a $5 a day for a table. One of my friends made a couple of grand from running a table for a year. I love capitalism. A special ed kid got jumped by a dude on his way to school and was beaten bloody. The whole thing was recorded by the guy's girlfriend and her friend. The whole time they were cheering him on, yelling things like world star and so on. She later posted it on Instagram, which mad off everyone, and just about everyone wanted to beat the dude up in the vid. He was given temporary suspension while the police took care of him. From what I know, he was given a assault charge. Also, side note, there was a girl at my school who was in minor league boxing who was ready to beat him up. She even tried looking for him by his house. Had this happen at my school to the guy, just didn't wind up so lucky and had the balls to come to school. His face was pretty broken afterwards. Something like this happened at mine's, except it was a girl being hit and pushed to the ground by a year or two older boy. Guy got beaten up by his peers. Police got involved. 3 guys got 2 weeks suspension each, including the piece of crap who was happy about it. Girl had to move schools because she had panic attacks when seeing this prick around. And yay, she had to drive to a town an hour every morning instead of a short walk. Not him. Unjust, but I think that guy got kicked in the ass by life after that, and now he is some kind of volunteer that helps disabled people, so I guess is fighting back for that karma. Little bit of backstory first. Our school had a big renovation ongoing, and because of that, almost half of the school was closed down. The closed part included the biggest bathrooms, and because of that, the school administration ordered 2 toilet barracks to be placed on the schoolyard. So, some 7 9th graders decided to buy some toilet pipe opener liquid, I don't know what is the correct term, and aluminium foil. They put the aluminium foil inside some plastic bottles and poured a little pipe opener in them with the foil. As someone has probably done this before, knows what is going to happen next. They stuck 6 bottles total inside the toilet bowls in every stall of one barrack and blew them up due to the chemical reaction between the foil and the opener. All the pipings of the single barrack were destroyed due to water pressure inside the pipes. Turns out that the 2 barracks had connected pipings, and the water that was in the bowls in the other barrack shot up to the ceiling due to pressure. The students never got caught, and if I remember correctly, the incident ended up costing a hefty amount for the school administration. The barracks were taken away and were replaced with new ones. After the incident, every recess there was a teacher in front on the barracks monitoring everyone going in and out. Nothing happened to the new toilets. Are the good old works bombs? Brings back memories of being a little craphead in my younger years. Not my school, but friends. 2 students threw a chair from a balcony. They'd hit an 8-month pregnant teacher. She passed out. The principal refused to let an ambulance evacuate her from school grounds because it had tattered their school's reputation, so she has had the custodian drag the unconscious bleeding pregnant teacher out of the school, and only then she called the ambulance. The teacher has had a stillbirth consequently to that incident. This is actually the worst story on here. That poor woman. My mother's a teacher in an elementary school, not so different from this one. Every time I think about this story, I think about her and what had happened to her if she'd go under a similar predicament, given how fragile of a woman she is. The most infuriating thing is the perpetrators weren't caught, nor the principal punished for what have happened. Star football player rammed my car with his truck on purpose and totaled it. Principal and vice principals all turned a blind eye and played it down like boys will be boys. He hit my car on purpose and nobody cared. My parents and I go in to see the vice principal in charge of student parking, and all the VP has to offer is, well, maybe we can have him pay your deductible. No punishment, detention, anything. His parents didn't seem to care either. Mind you, this is a car I bought with my own money that was in need of repairs at the time, that my father and I worked on as a project to get running and roadworthy for when I turned 16, so would have my own a car to drive. The insurance totaled the car and waived the deductible. I just had to give them the car and they gave me a check. Luckily, it helped that my parents had put full coverage on the car, so I got back most of what I had put into it. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Frick that guy and frick that school. I just want my damn car back. Should have gone to the police, not the school. Forgot to mention that. Local police said the school had to handle it because it happened in the school parking lot. Regardless, it was almost 20 years ago. I've owned a dozen cars since then, and I'm pretty sure I came out on top, all things considered.